Hello, welcome to the channel and thanks for joining me. So today is a little bit of a show and tell and a bit of a refresh video, I hope, on this beautiful old Hitachi 5280E. Now this particular model dates from around 1977, something like that. And it's a lovely little unit, really well made. And as you can see there, it's got the mics on the side, condenser microphones. It's also got the two-way speaker system, so you've got like a mid-range and a tweeter there. And as of course, back in the day, they would have told you all about it with the two-way speaker system there. And also you'll notice how dirty it is. So we'll come back to that in a second. But you can see you've got the normal and chrome position on the tape, your stereo and mono switch, of course your balance dial there as well, and an auto frequency control. You've also got your sliders there for your main functions, sleep mode, radio or tape. And the tape also puts the unit into standby. And there's your radio wavelength selectors there, FM, medium wave and long wave. You've also got FM stereo on here, which lights up with this here on that light. Plus also you do get on the VU meter, you can see it's a three-way meter there. So you've got your level, you've also got tuning strength and the battery indicator as well. So going back up to the controls there, of course your bass, treble, so 2-band EQ and a volume control. So anyway, I bought this online a little while ago as not working, and yes, it's very dusty. As I say, you can see the grime on there, but actually if I take a quick sort of look around it, it's in really nice condition actually. So I always think if the bare bones are there, you know, all the knobs, controls, dials, everything else is on there. The chrome work on the handle's really nice. The labels on the back, the battery cover is present. It's all kind of there really. I'll just walk around this side and you'll see that actually overall, it's really not in bad condition. So I think it's got some real potential. But anyway, enough about the actual external side of it. If we put the radio on now, we'll be able to see just how great it sounds. So we just switch this on to radio, like so. Now this is on long wave. I'll just turn it down a touch. But you can see straight away that it's got a really good strength signal on the medium wave. And so on medium wave, we should also have channels, hopefully. There we go. So we've got medium wave. And we've also got, or will have, FM. And you can see the FM stereo there. And also as we turn this, you'll see the battery strength indicator, the signal strength indicator coming and going. So everything's working really nicely on the radio, really pleased with that. So then if we try the tape and we move it over to tape here, and if I put a cassette in, press play, nothing happens. Try again. Can you hear the whirring noise? It's making some sort of sound. So I'll just try fast forward, rewind. Yeah, nothing's happening. So it sounds like the motor's still going. Let's have another listen. And if I just put my finger on the capstan there, it's not rolling. So I'm hoping that the noise we can hear is the motor working, and we should just need some new belts. Now it does beg the question, what might have happened to the old belts? Has it just snapped or come off, or indeed has it turned to goo? So before we give this an external sort of refresh and everything else, let's take a look inside and see what's gone wrong with the cassette deck. Okay, here we go then. So the first thing I tend to do is remove the battery cover for no other reason, and quite often screws can be hidden away inside there. As it happens, it doesn't appear that there are on this one. Right then, so first thing we'll do is start removing some screws. Good. So So there's your 8 screws out. This should now lift away with a bit of luck. Okay. Now just be careful because the antenna will normally be linked now at this stage. So I'm just going to put it on end. So we've got 3 going into the board here. And then we've got the power. There's 2 going to the actual DC voltage on the inside. I'll show you those in a second. Red on the top, black on the bottom. And just, there we go. That's the power board away. And then for these 3, we have brown on the bottom, blue to the outside, and yellow to the inside. And there goes the case. There we go. So just to show you on the inside then, we've got the 3 connections to the speakers, which plug directly onto the board, and we've also got the DC going onto the board as well. So that's the 5 leads that we need to take away. The blue one, incidentally, is the antenna, which traces its way back to the base of the antenna itself, just there. Right, so that's the back case off. So here we go then. That leaves us with the main board, the aerial board there. So obviously we need to get all of this away so that we can get to the cassette deck underneath. So now it's just a case of trying to figure out how all of this comes out. I can see, you won't see it on the camera, but it looks like inside there we've got potentially a pulley that's it looks a bit grimy. Let's see, it's underneath there. It's in the dark. I don't think you'll see it, but it looks like the belts may have actually perished away inside of there, so we'll see that in a minute, hopefully. But anyways, to get this whole thing out in one go, we will probably need to find the mounting screws to the chassis for the whole board carrying part. There will also no doubt be multi-plugs that will need to come away, so we'll do that. We'll do one of these first. So we'll have that one away because that will make things easier, and then the rest of these kind of go around the back here, so we can take basically all of those cables, go around the cable tidy there. So that's most of them. Right, okay, so let's start by taking out the black screws around the edge. So there's another one at the front here. That's 2. And then another one here. So we've got one by the volume control, one by the treble control, one just down the side here below the tuner, then not one there, we've got one here on the top. So what I'll do now though is remove the knobs, just pull, I'm literally just pulling these off as we go. Okay, so there's the control knobs, and also just the volume knob as well. Okay, good. And then the tuning knob from the side. What I'm hopeful then is that this will all start to move away at some point. Admittedly, we are still probably going to be restrained by some of the boards, and we may even need to take this one off as well yet. But this will all come to light as we go. Main thing at the moment is to just check in case there are any other screws. Aha, but there is one here just next to the DIN socket. So far all of these screws are the same length. See if we can ease this board away and see what's attached and where. Aha, so I've found another black screw just here on the corner. speakers are soldered in. Yeah, there's quite a few things to unplug from the board, but we may be able to swing this out. This is where we've just got to be careful now. Don't force anything, and just see where things have got sort of hung up really. Is take the switch mechanism out first, because that will allow me access to, potentially anyway, might just give me a bit more slack. Also, I'll just take the balance knob off as well. So there's the access to the switch panel to give us a bit more clearance. There we go. Right, so now we can get to the switches. Don't know if we can see that there, but we can now get to these switches. Creaky foam underneath the board there, but yeah, so now we can get to them to give them a good clean in a minute. I've just stopped to put a bit of bubble wrap away to keep the switches away from the magnets on the speakers and stuff. Basically, you can get to everything now to give everything a good clean, which is nice. So all these assorted switches and the radio frequency selectors and the function switches, or a raised head switch, all that kind of stuff, we can get to all of those to give them a good clean and get some contact cleaner in there in a bit, along with these other switches and stuff. Power contacts off the board as well. I've just made a quick note, incidentally, just doing a pretty little picture, just to remind myself of what we need to put back when we've finished, because obviously it's a fair amount of things get unclipped here. So whilst none of it is technically very difficult at the moment, it's just a bit fiddly, and we just want to make sure that we route everything back the way it came and plug everything back where it came from. So at the moment, I think I'm just hung up on some wires. So I think I'm just going to start by unpicking those and then seeing if we can lift the board free. Okay, so having freed up as many of the cables as I can just from the cable ways on the side, I'm hoping I've got a bit closer here. There we go. Great. Righty ho then. So that's access to, there we go. There's access to the back of the cassette mechanism. And this is why we've got to be careful with everything, because of course, we don't want to create carnage in here, and we want to put everything back from whence it came. However, here we go. Let me just, that, which is, look at that goo. Oh, I'm not going to mess with this too much because it really will turn to tar, but that is the some of the remnants of the old belt. So there's your central pulley there. Fortunately, the idler tires look really good. There are, that belt's gone as well. Right, so what we'll do is we'll find a reference photo of this and we'll make a few diagrams of our own, put some cleaner in there, put some rubber renew probably on the idler tires and stuff like that. See if we've got some new belts, give everything a bit of a clean, and hopefully that will cure the issue with the tape. So let's go and let's go find some cleaner and make some pictures of the belts. Just gonna take the cover off of the flywheel. Now we noticed, if you remember, when we tested it, I did make the comment that the capstan wasn't turning, and hopefully it was just the belt that was the issue. So the motor, I think, was working, and as I say, I think it was more, that feels free enough, and I think it was just literally that, how on earth is anything going to turn when it all looks a bit like that? Oh dear, I'm not even going to be able to get that off. I think I might even have to get the main capstan out, get the flywheel out, and give that a darn good clean with some isopropyl alcohol, I think. So for this cleanup operation, we just need a few simple things really. I've got some rubber gloves on, you don't need them, but it's just easier to take the gloves off after than to spend 20 minutes trying to clean the rotten belts off your fingers. I've got copious amounts of isopropyl alcohol, a screwdriver for getting into any awkward places, but be super careful with metal surfaces, we don't want to scratch anything. Also got some Q-tips as well to get in there, and just some like kitchen roll or shop towel just to kind of keep us clean as we go. Interestingly, I'm just having a poke around in here, and I'm guessing at least somebody tried cleaning the heads at some point. There's yeah, there's some sort of dirty old Q-tips or something in here, so someone's had a go at some point at trying to clean something. But yeah, there we go. It's amazing what you find rattling around in the back of these little things, isn't it? First things first, then we'll get rid of this. Oh, I say we get rid of this belt, but I think the belt's getting rid of itself. Oh no, this could be a real mess actually, because if it's rotten, yeah, if it's rotten to the point where it's on everything. Come on, yes. Small successes, hey. Because if we can get some of this off without turning to goo, makes it a lot easier. Like for example, now all we've got to do is clean this pulley, whereas there was a danger we might have even had to take it all off and clean it independently at one point. So yeah, so basically we're just gonna, actually we can take this out now. Okay, good. So just be careful, because there is like a little thrust washer on there, tiny little thrust washer, so make sure you don't lose that. But basically this is the much easier way of cleaning and scraping all this off. It could have been better, could have been worse, but there we go. So we'll just get some of this off carefully without scratching the flywheel, and then yeah, we'll just keep cleaning it up with some isopropyl alcohol, and I'll come back when everything's clean. Making progress, very nearly there now. Okay, so the flywheel is done, and I shall forever have black fingers for the rest of my rest of the video now, because once you've got so much gunk on your gloves, you have to kind of take them off really. But anyway, she's nicely cleaned up now. Also a great opportunity, of course, to clean the capstan, and I'll also put a tiny drop of light machine oil in there as well, once we fit that back into the actual sort of bearing surface. Anyway, that's ready to go. Both of the pulley, both of the belts bearing surfaces are clean. That's good. So again, just going in and getting the residual rubbish off of this pulley, and we just about got away with it. You can see there was some sort of residue from there, so we just, there we go, that's perfect. So we'll just do the same with this one as well. There you go. There's not a lot on that one, which is great, but certainly didn't do any harm given the state of that. Right, so next thing then, I'm gonna have a bit of a tidy up in a minute. We're gonna clean this off, just get a duster, get some of the dust out, and then what we'll do is we'll find some belts. There is just the one belt residue to get off, which is the one on the actual motor there, on the motor spindle. So we'll just, as I say, have a general clean and keep going. I'm just going to try and get some of this belt residue off as much as we can, just in one piece really. We don't want to be smearing it around if we can help it. Far better just to get it off as we go. So a bit more alcohol now, and we don't need to be wasteful. I mean, this is the one this is the Q-tip we've just been using, but given that we've got quite a bit of gunk to get off to start with, we don't need a fresh one just yet. As you can see, that really is quite horrible. But we're making progress, which is good. Well, I don't think I can realistically get anything more off of this pulley now. I think that's polished up as good as she's going to get, which is great. So that's all traces of the old belts gone. What I will do though is just put a tiny little bit of, just got some very light machine oil here. Just going to put a drop on side of the, on the motor. Just on the spindle. And obviously we don't want to foul the belt surface. With just a little bit, just to seep through. And we'll also put the merest little smidge as well onto the flywheel, and we're just going to put a tiny bit on there so that when it goes back on, just lightly oiled, and then we'll remember to clean the capstan again once we put it in. So that's that done. So the next little job is to just put some rubber renew, just freshen up the idler tyres, I think. So the rubber renew is very nasty stuff. Don't get it on your skin, and use it in a well ventilated area. Basically all we're doing is just cleaning up the rubber, freshening it up a little bit, so it should be able to bite just that little bit better. Now, we don't know how well the fast forward and rewind work, of course, because they didn't work at all when we tried the unit out, purely because none of the drive belts were attached. So we don't know just how effective these idler tyres are yet, but whilst we can get to them, there's no harm just trying to freshen them up just a little bit. There we go, that's all that needs. And we can use the other ends just for going around and mopping up some dust. Just having a general sort of clean and getting rid of the gunk that's in here. And you can then go in and re-grease any moving or sliding mechanisms if you feel that they need it at this stage. So now we're going to try and find some belts. First thing we're going to do is actually put the clean flywheel back in, and as I said, remember that we have to keep that little thrust washer on there. Now we've oiled it slightly for the bearing surface, but that means there will be a bit of oil on the capstan, so we must remember to clean that when we put it back in. But in any event, there she is. Beautiful. Yep, absolutely silent, and look at that. That'll spin really easily. That's gorgeous. Right, okay, good. So now we've got to go back and just see if we can trace our original belt drawing back and see if we can't get some belts. Now obviously this one we've got half a chance with because we can measure that directly, but the other ones, of course, they're just totally rotten, so we're going to have to just measure that or figure it out as we go. Okay, so I've just gently lifted the board back into position, being careful to try not to trap any wires. You also have to make sure when you put the board back in that any switches that operates, as it were, from above locate into the relevant engagement parts. You'd be surprised how many times how easy it is to put a board back in and then realise the switches don't actually line up right. So that's okay. So basically all we want to do is just make sure everything's squarely back on, screw the board down, and then we'll go ahead and clean some switches, I think. So I'm just going to clean some of this gunk off the switches now, just while I can get to them. There we go. Lovely jubbly. and then we'll put some switch cleaner through them and also through the potentiometers as well. Now the switches weren't too noisy, to be honest, and whilst there is an argument to say if it ain't broke, don't fix it, there is also an argument to say that, well, how often do we get a chance to actually get inside here and actually do this? So it would make sense to actually just get in here and just work the switches a little bit. And if I remember rightly, we left them in the pressed in position to help us line it back up and get it back inside the case. Right, so we shall also just put a splash inside some of the other switches as well, because some of these won't have been used for years. I mean, a lot of these, if you think about it, you know, a lot of the switches on the back don't get used much anyway, and so they're probably never been used. And even if they were used originally, of course, if a cassette plays up or the radio breaks or something happens, then people just, you know, put it in the shed or put it in the attic, completely forget they've even got it, and then of course the switches get even more corroded. So yeah, we're just going through and just being a little bit, be careful, you don't need to put loads in there. Just giving these a little clean. Good, well that feels all good and solid now, so all that remains is to start screwing everything back into place. So all the screws are back in, including the cheeky little one that's hidden away in the board there. We've changed all 3 belts, we've cleaned all the switches. So all that remains now is to put the back on, and then what we'll do is we'll go through the front, clean the head, and also just clean the capstan again and the pinch roller, and then hopefully we'll be in business. I'll spare you the comedy, but I'd literally just fitted everything back together and realised I'd missed the cover plate off the top of the flywheel. So I had to take it all back apart, put those 2 screws back in and reassemble everything. So yeah, happens to us all, eh? Right, okay, so anyway, here we are. Okay, so I've just put the back on. It was super fiddly trying to get those 3 connections back on for the speakers on the back of the board, because they are so short. And I've got quite big hands, and trying to get those in onto the board and press against them without damaging the radio wires that were literally just right there. But I wanted to leave them in their factory locations on the inside or the other side of this case, because if you don't leave them in there, then the cables, although I'd have had more space to put them back together, they'd have rattled around inside and potentially could have damaged the antenna cables. So I've managed finally to get them together. So I've just plugged it in, and hopefully now, I haven't put the back on yet, I haven't screwed it on or anything, but if we put the radio on, no, something's not right, because now the needle's not moving.
Come on.
So it's tuning, but it's not. It's locked on there, so we need to sort that out next. Okay, so we've managed to get it all back together again. Slightly fiddlier than I thought, and also I hadn't realised, or at least I'd forgotten, that you need to realign the needle so that when you put the whole board unit back on, this isn't attached to the board. So you've got to make sure that the pickup or the sliders are appropriately placed to move the dial back and forth. Okay, good. She's all buttoned back up together again. So I've put some power in. Let's see what happens if we get the radio on first. Make sure we didn't break that in the process of trying to fix the cassette. So we'll put it onto radio. And there's the FM stereo. Perfect. So medium wave. Yep. And long wave. Perfect. Good. So we shall that's magic. Right, so all that remains is to see if we've actually fixed the cassette mechanism. So I guess we can cheat. What we can do is, actually no, I'm going to clean the head first. Let's press play. Actually no, this will give the game away, won't it? So let's have a look. We press play now, and there we go. So it sounds rather a lot like we've fixed the problem. So I'll go and get a cassette, and then we'll clean the heads, and then let's see how we've got on. So apologies, I'm somewhat in my own light at the moment. It's got dark extremely early here in England this time of year. But basically, you'll probably already know anyway, but just some isopropyl alcohol just across the face of the heads, obviously in the play position with the power off. And you can see some of the ferrite sort of oxide, as it were. You'll also see bits of black all over my fingers. Apologies for that. We've been changing the old belts today, and they'd all completely disintegrated to goo. So that'll take a bit of while getting off. Anyways, that's the head. Actually, that head was pretty dirty, I've got to say. They're not normally quite so dirty as that, so that's good that we've done that at least. Right, I'll also do the put some on the pinch roller as well. Now again, for the pinch roller, you can sort of partially press play, and then that will allow you to access the pinch roller but still be able to turn it, because it won't be quite pressed against the capstan. So there we go. Marvellous. Well, not too bad, but worth doing. So I'll just let that flash off for a moment and find a tape, and then we'll actually see if the thing works or not. Rightio. You can see she still needs a good clean. That's why I've not put any of the knobs or switches back on yet. That'll be the job for tomorrow morning. But first things first, we know that the radio works, so that's fantastic. Now let's just try a tape. So we'll just put a cassette in there. And bearing in mind, basically what we've had to do, we had one belt that was ruined and two belts that had turned to complete goo. So we just had to sort of poke around in there to see what we needed and find some replacement belts. Let's see if this works. There you go, it's just coming to the end of the song typically. But yep, so the tape's working. We've just cleaned the head. We've replaced all three belts. The radio, we didn't manage to break the radio in the process, so that's marvellous. And yeah, we'll just give her a darn good clean now and get ready for some nice little beauty shots, I think. Now, I didn't take any pictures of the knobs and dials before I cleaned them, but look at these. They've come up beautifully actually. And also just even the details, like can you see the little orange pointer markers now on the knobs? Couldn't even see those before, so that was well worth doing. And so here she is then, all nicely cleaned up, fully working. We've cleaned the head and the pinch roller. We've changed all three belts in there, given it a jolly good clean, cleaned and serviced all of the switches, knobs and dials, and given her a good scrub and a polish. I think you'll find that she looks absolutely gorgeous now. Sounds absolutely incredible, I have to say. The aerial is superb, that's fully functional, still got the original tip on there, and of course we also polished it back as well just to give it a nice new sheen. And yeah, so the tape works fine, the radio works fine, she just looks gorgeous. So really pleased with that. A little bit of work getting that goo where those belts had disintegrated, but we got there in the end, hey. So thanks very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please do subscribe and consider hitting the notifications bell as well for updates. We've got a load more boomboxes, 8-track recorders, personal stereos, all that kind of stuff. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon. All the best for now.
No need to fight it, no need to hide it. Now that I see what's in the real, so don't cheat yourself and yo, say in it.